Right, good day D-Block. In this video tutorial we're going to look at the first isometric in your Mind Action Series workbook, and we have a isometric drawing to complete. In this case you've got an isometric, and essentially you're just going to copy that to the correct scale on this given sheet with the starting point A given to you. As you move on in your EGD careers, for the lack of better words, you're going to be given a orthographic projection, which you're then going to have to put into an isometric view. So this is a little bit easier, and for the sake of this drawing, what we're going to do is literally draw point to point, and then as we draw more and more, we're going to draw smarter. But for the sake of this video, I'm literally going to take you from corner to corner around this object using our 30-degree set square. Right, so in order to complete this drawing, you need a 30-degree set square. Why? Because when we draw in the isometric, right, any line that runs left or right of a corner or point will run at 30 degrees. Okay, so remember that. All vertical lines are straight, they're 90, they're perpendicular, if you like, to a horizontal axis, if you had one. Right, the rest will run at 30 degrees. Okay, so in order to start this drawing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to work developing, let's call this the front view. I'm going to start developing the front view and then work my way back. So I'm actually going to start with this face, this funny looking H shape, right? There, 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 and there. So we're going to develop that first, and then we're going to work our way back from there. Okay? So to start at A and move up to get the first vertical edge, we're going to have to work out what our total distance is going to be. And if we're smart, we're going to have to scan the object, and we're going to have to do math. So as I come across here, you'll see that I have 35 from the base to this sort of overhang, the bottom of that overhang, and the 15 above, which is in line with the total height of that H. That gives me a total of 50 mils. So I'm going to take my compass, listen to me, my set square. I'm going to draw a construction line up, just a very light construction line, and I'm going to measure a total of 50 millimeters, okay? So I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to measure 50 millimeters up that line. Let me just make sure I get this nice and straight. I'm being a bit lazy with my T-square here. There's, we said, what is it, 40, 50 mils. So there's 50 millimeters. That's the total height of the H, right? So what I'm going to do here, let me just position my camera a little better so we get this more in the middle of my middle of what I'm doing. So one more sec. Okay. So that's 50 mils from the start of A to this little point over here. Right. Now the total width of one upright is 15 millimeters. All right. So I'm going to go across from this point at 15 millimeters. And remember, everything left or right of a point is at 30 degrees. So I'm going to do a construction line just gently across from there. And I'm also going to do it along the bottom. This pen looks very dark on the screen, but it's actually quite light. Okay, so there we have it. We have the leading edge. We have a portion of that line and a portion of that line. And we said that that line is 15 millimeters. All right, and so how are we going to do two things at once, essentially, is to measure that 15 millimeters at the bottom, right? So in other words, I'm going to measure 15, right, from there, 15 mils is to about there, right? And then what I'm going to do is take that line up, right, as a construction line through there. Now what that gives me is the space, perfect space or dimensions for that leading edge of the H. All right? Perfect. All right? Then what I'm going to now go do is find where this sort of crossbar, if you like, where the middle of the H connects to the other upright. And we know that it's 15 mils wide, so it's 15 mils height. Sorry, in height it's 15 mils. And we know that by looking at this and doing our maths, right? In fact, no maths is needed, yeah? That it is 10 millimeters from the bottom, right? So I'm going to go 10 millimeters, because we know this point is on the bottom. I'm going to go 10 millimeters up, right? And then from there, I'm going to go another 15, because we know it's 15 wide. So I'm going to go 10 and another 15, right? So that's 10 off the bottom, and that's 15 from that point. Okay, and then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my 30-degree set square. Remember, everything is at 30 degrees from a point, left or right, and I'm going to just do some light construction lines across to the right of the page. Okay. Alright, so I'm just adding a little bit more light. Smart lights turn themselves off. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to do so that you can start to see this more clearly, right, is draw these edges here in a little bit darker so that we can distinguish between construction and what's a hard outline. The reason I'm doing that is because it's this camera picks up even light drawing outlines as dark. So you can see that that is actually the finished product in terms of the outlines for that first portion. Right, we know then that this runs a total distance of 30 across. So then I'm going to go measure along that line within the 30 degrees. 30, right? And then from there, what I'm going to do is we can see that we've got this next inside edge of that sort of H frame or H shape. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to draw a construction line across. And then you can see if we get our 30-degree set squares, we can continue to project the bottom of the object across. And if we're smart, we come to the top over here, and we take the top of the H, and we project it across. Okay? Right, so now I can go ahead and draw that in dark. Right, I can draw that in dark because we know that that's all now positioned nicely. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to complete these two inside edges, and it's quite nice. I've got them already positioned. Because I've pulled the heights across, I can then go ahead and draw these in. Okay. So there it is. Fantastic. All right. Now we need to go and finish the bottom. We know that that is a total again of 15 millimeters is the width of that panel again. So I'm going to go and measure a total of 15 millimeters. There it is. And again, I'm going to project that up. Right, just a construction line straight up. Don't worry about heights. If you measure as you draw, it's going to take a long time. Okay. So we know that from the bottom to where this overhang starts, it was 35 millimeters. So I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to measure 35 millimeters up from that bottom corner. So there's 35 over there. And what I'll do while I've got my ruler in place is I can actually go draw that in dark. Okay, it's 35. Then I can go along the bottom here. I can construct that in dark. Oops, losing some lead, pushing a little bit too hard. Okay, let me just rub that little mark out. Okay, so I've got that bottom section. Now you'll notice that there is a line at the bottom corner, or edge runs all the way along the bottom. We haven't given any more information other than that it should then go all the way to the other side. So how I'm going to do that is flip my 30-degree set square, come to that point, and I'm just going to construct a line across until I get to that line. And that line will supersede because it runs under that shape, okay? So now we've got to this point. We've got this point here, and we've got this point over here. So we need to do the rest of that H shape. The total distance, let's have a look here. The total distance from that point across is going to be 35. And the total distance then from that point across should be 20. Okay, so you can measure from the bottom or you can measure from the top. So I'm going to go measure from the top a total of 20 and 15, 35. So before I do that, quickly going to extend that across some more. Right, let's go measure 35. And measure 35 from that point. There it is. And then I'm going to drop that straight down, right? Because you can see that comes straight down. So I'll come straight down as the construction line, right? And then from that point that I had earlier, I'm just going to project that across, right? And we should then have a total distance of 15 there. So now I can go in there and I can construct this a little bit darker, right? Darker and darker from there to there. Now you'll see the whole shape that we had earlier Now this looks so dark, it looks just like the actual drawing, but it's not if you're sitting in front of me, well, sitting by me. Alright, so we've got that portion of the drawing finished. So what we're going to do is we can either start with developing the top, or we can start developing from the left here. And look, because there's an overhang here, I think it's probably easier that we start to develop the top view and run backwards. Okay, so what we're going to do is go to the bottom corner here, and we know that we're going to go from point A 30 degrees. So I'm just going to construct a line 30 degrees, right? All right, and then I'm going to go to this point over here and construct a line of 30 degrees. Okay, this is all construction, remember. I'm going to go into that inside corner and construct a line at 30 degrees off that point. And I'm going to go to all these points or corners that I have, and I'm going to go construct lines of 30 degrees. See how I'm using my ruler and my T-square together. All right. Now, it doesn't matter where we start here, but I'm going to start at the back and then work my way across. Okay, from the right to the left. Now we know that that will go for 20 millimeters. So now that I've already drawn it in, we're going to go from there. We're going to work back 20 millimeters. And then what am I going to do? Well, again, every point, it's left or right, up and down at 30 degrees. So I'm just going to draw a line in there, right? And we know that that panel then that goes back is at 15 millimeters. Now, what you'll notice here is I can use my construction because that's already 15 millimeters. So I can take this construction, or alternatively, I can go and measure my 15 millimeters if I want to, but I've already got it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set my set square up in the 30 degree position, right? And I'm going to draw a line backwards, okay? And you can see now we're starting to develop that top panel and the top of the H that runs its depth to the back, right? Now the total length of these panel, well, of the depth or total, if you want to call it length, you can, is 65 millimeters, right? So that means that I should measure from this point here 65 millimeters. There we go. Right? And what am I going to do? At this point, I've found that corner, so I'm going to go across at 30 degrees to intersect the back edge over there. Right, and you'll see now I've developed that L shape on that top panel over there, which is the top panel over there. So now I can go and draw things in darker. I'm going to go do all my 30s. It's off to the left. Right, nice and dark. I'll do all my 30s now. Sorry, I forgot one. There we go. And I'll do all my 30s now off to the right. These are darker lines. They are outlines. Great. Okay. Now we're going to work this panel on the inside here. It comes down. I know this is not the top view. This would be sort of an inside left view. We're going to come down, right? We've got this edge already, which is perfect. And we've got the total length, which will be in line with that back corner. So immediately what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my set square and I'm going to construct a light construction line back 30 degrees. And then we know that this edge here joins that point and that point. So I'm going to go to that top corner and I'm going to draw a line straight down there. And I'm going to go ahead and draw that in dark because I know that's going to be a dark edge, dark visible edge. And then I'm going to go and make this darker. Right? Good. Now we know off the bottom corner that there is a little bit of that back face that we see, and that will be at 30 degrees. So we're going to come back again at 30 degrees from there, and we're just going to draw enough. We know, if you're smart enough already, you'll know that that's going to stop there, but I'm just going to draw a construction line right straight across. Now to finish the L-shaped panel over here, okay? We know that we've got this leading edge over here. We've determined already the width and depth over there, right? So we know that the total length of that we can borrow from the total length of this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my 30 degree set square up like this, and I'm going to bring that across in construction. And you'll notice now this panel is starting to draw itself even. right? Now, this is where it gets a little bit more difficult because we've got an overhang that's going to come beyond the starting point of A, right? Now, the overhang, do we have to assume a total? Let's have a look. So that should be a total again of 15, right, by 20. 15 by 20, so I'm going to come off this edge here, the leading edge, by 20. Right, so I'm going to continue there by 20, and we know it's a total width of 20. So let's go and construct that. And off the back corner, you can see I'm going to measure 20. So there's 20 over there. At that point again, I'm going to draw a nice, use my 30-degree set square to come off there, right? And we know again that it's exactly the same, right? So we're going to share that 20 mil there. So I'm going to borrow that. Remember, it doesn't say that it's 20 mils, by the way, okay? But you could possibly work it out, 100, and you've got 30 in the middle, and you could go ahead and work it out by a subtraction method. All right, so there's another. So we're going to measure 20. And there's my 20 there. I can measure it on this edge or that edge, it doesn't matter. And now I'm just going to come back 20. And what I'm going to do is do that dark because that's the top edge over there. And let me go and do the rest of these lines in darker detail. I'm just going to go fill in the top. You'll see that's where those all now, remember, we've all built this up and we've developed it, so we can go and just finish it off with some nice dark outlines. Here we are, this little edge over here. Just go put it in. There we go. So we've got that top L panel in position, and now we can go and just make sure that that little back section there is done in darker detail. Here it is. Perfect. Now we're going to finish off the rest of this. Right, we know that back edge, right, which is a total of 65, then should match up. Let's see how accurate we've been, or accurate I've been, not you. So 65, how's that? Look at that, lines up brilliantly. Okay, in fact, it's going to be even better when I stop being lazy and measure properly. There we go. So that 65, you can see, lines up brilliantly with that edge over there. Okay. So I'm going to run this back, dark line to that point. Brilliant. I mean, or alternatively, you could have just done what? You could have pulled this line straight down from a construction point of view. Okay. Right. We know that that's going to be what? We do another construction line down from there to get that back edge of 15 millimeters. So what I'll do is, I mean, you could do it from any edge. You could do 15 down here. But I'll just go and work off the back here. Yeah, but there's no one way to skin a catcher. Some people use a sort of a box method, which I can draw later. We're just going corner to corner, edge for edge, more so using views to piece it together. So now you know what I'll do here. Smart. I'm going to take that across. I'm going to bring that across here. Construction, right? And then I'm going to bring it across this way, right? There. And noticing that I'm going to come down off that corner. That's going to give me where that point stops, that panel stops. There we go. So now I can go fill all of this in darker detail. Okay, and now I can go ahead and do to the left, right, to the right, and then my two verticals. I need to go draw that darker, that's still in construction. So there's the isometric construction. And remember, this method, we started with a view and then we developed backwards once we had built that view up. Right, good luck with this drawing, gentlemen. Yeah, I hope you are successful. Don't hesitate to send a message if you are struggling.